Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about one of the most famous philosophers of the world, Plato. You may have heard about him even if you are not associated with Greek history or Greek philosophy. Please make sure to turn on the captions if you have trouble following along. Without wasting any time, let's jump right into it. So, this guy right here is Plato. He was from Athens, which was a city state of Greece. He is known for his philosophy, which has reached us through various accounts, including his own books, such as The Republic and Apology. He was a student of Socrates and a teacher of Aristotle. We're going to learn more about them in our Greek philosophy series. For now, let's talk about how his famous theory of state impacted the world of political philosophy. But before that, we need to understand his theory of ideas. So basically, imagine a horse. Good. Now you have a picture in your head. Now, where did this picture come from? Most of you will say that we have observed a horse before in our life and hence we have formed the concept of a horse in our mind. See, this is exactly where Plato is different from us. Plato believed that our souls existed in another world before we were born, known as the world of ideas or the ideal world. In this world of ideas, we were exposed to all the ideas that exist. Hence, when we see a horse for the first time, our soul has already seen it before and we just simply fail to recognize it. Plato believed that the ideal world is filled with ideas which are singular in nature, as in there is only one single concept of a horse. They are real, as in this ideal horse has true existence and is not something which is imaginary. They are eternal, as in the idea of horse will continue to exist independently by itself in the world of ideas, even if all the horses of the world die out. They are absolute, as in no changes can be made to the idea of a horse, and they are all essential. This last one is a bit tricky. The idea of horse carries with itself only the basic features of a horse, such as two ears, four legs, one tail, and so on. Colors, individual attributes, and things like that are not preserved within the idea because that would mean that there could only be one single color of the horse and that all attributes of all the horses will be the same. But we know that such is not the case because we see horses which are black or brown or white in color. We also know that they possess different identification marks, different speed, different genders, and so on. Thus, the idea of a horse possesses only the stuff that makes a horse a horse. Anything extra is a result of the imperfection in replication of this idea in our physical world. Thus, different horses are simply imperfect copies of the idea of horse. The ideal state is the idea of this state in the world of ideas. Plato mentions it in his famous book, The Republic. Plato wants a state that pursues the idea of state passionately so that it may get as close as possible to becoming that. One might argue that why should one serve an imperfect state at all if the best it can ever be is pretty close to the ideal state? Well, that's because the outcome would be much worse. Imagine a state which has no objective goal and people are free to do whatever they want. On top of that, one may ask why should a state even exist? Why not go and search for the truth yourself? Plato believes that not everybody is endowed with the faculty of reasoning. The ideal state is to be governed by a philosopher, also called the philosopher king. His job is to make sure that his subjects can get in touch with the ideas. He is supposed to act as an intermediary between the physical world and the world of ideas. The vices of the society are much easier to eliminate than the vices of individuals because the former are magnified. On top of that, Plato argued that organs are useful only as long as they collaborate. Individual human beings would work like solitary organs which are useless, whereas a society functions as the human being. Plato hated the Athenian democracy. The idea that anyone could become the ruler of the state was terrifying to him. You would not go to an unskilled cobbler to fix your shoes, he argued. Then why would you want your state to be run by an unskilled man? Plato believed that democratic freedom was a guise for anarchy. The state usually falls into the hands of tyrants. Plato called for an aristocracy of intellect in the ideal state, where the wisest person would be made the ruler of the state. The society will be divided into philosophers, military, and labor class. Each class will have its role fixed. The philosopher's virtue was wisdom, the warrior's virtue was courage, and the trader's virtue was temperance. A collaboration between the three would bring about the fourth cardinal virtue called justice, where the rest of the three would be the three cardinal virtues. This would make up the four cardinal virtues of Plato. This division of society shows how much Plato was influenced by the Pythagorean tripartite theory of human nature. Not only society, but he divided the human body into rational, noble, and impulsive parts. The philosopher king is expected to retire into deep thought and brooding when he is not ruling. The warriors are supposed to protect us from external attacks and prevent internal uprisings, and make sure that even the deviants follow the decree of the philosopher king. The laborers and traders have to make sure that the economy keeps moving. The three classes have their exclusive professions, which have been fixed by a very tough examination over the year. Even the students who complete the study of philosophy have to serve as public officers before one of them is chosen to be the philosopher king. Dramatic poetry is strictly banned because it talks about the gods and their immorality, something that Plato believed would spread corruption in the society. Only lyric poetry is allowed in the ideal state. The number of children are to be regulated by the state, and the ones who are born mentally or physically weak are to be killed off. The state does not entertain any liabilities. They are brought up in state nurseries away from their biological parents. Hence, nobody has a family in the ideal state, and all the elders treat the kids as their own children. The problem of injustice will not exist in such a state because the philosopher king would have known about the idea of good, which is the highest idea. On top of that, no private property will be entertained by the ideal state. All property will belong to the state, and thus everyone will have a place in the society, but it does not mean everyone would be equal, as we have already seen. That was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. It was a small one. I really suggest you stay tuned for episode 2 and also wait for the theory of ideas and tripartite division of the soul to be discussed separately in our Greek philosophy series. Till then, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like what I'm doing, I'll see you around.